Good morning. All right, got another video. Why do the numbers frighten the atheists so much? I'm going to prove God, hopefully in 5 minutes or less. I'm going to try. I've been trying. It's been hard. It'll probably be over a little bit, somewhat over 5 minutes. But anyway, math does not lie. It's factual. In fact, math's the ultimate science, the ultimate accurate science. It gives you a solution to a problem. So the question we're going to answer, does God exist, or are the atheists right, like Friedrich Nietzsche there? There are no eternal facts as there are no absolute truths, he said. Well, first of all, logically, his statement, there are no eternal facts. Well, is that a eternal fact about the fact that there are no eternal facts, as there are no absolute truth? Well, is there are no absolute truths an absolute truth that there are no absolute truths? I think so. Anyway. First life, abiogenesis, the cell. It has to be the cell. Why? Carl Sagan said it can't be a virus. I've heard atheists say, or they try to bring it all the way back to a virus. Well, unfortunately, a virus, like Carl Sagan said, is a thoroughgoing parasite. It requires a host. And I'll leave a link in the description below of a little video clip of him saying that. And Origin of Life scientists talking about our first ancestor had to be your daddy, is a one-celled creature that could self-replicate. Has to be. Today, we know there are 42 million protein molecules in a simple cell. These are just facts I'm giving you. And we also know that there are some 10, of a specific protein type. You would need anywhere from 10 protein molecules. 10 protein molecules, anywhere from 10 to half a million protein molecules of the same copy. In other words, 500,000 copies of one protein and 10 down to 10 copies of another protein, depending on where it's at in the cell. Also, each protein molecule, of course, is made up of amino acid units. And there are roughly 500 different amino acids, but of those 500, you only need a certain 20 that make up the proteins found in the body. Well, that really causes a conundrum, but we'll talk about it later. So Origin of Life researchers say there's 200, at least minimum, 206 different types of proteins needed for the first minimum cell that we would need. So let's be generous and just for rounding off purposes, let's just say 200 different types of proteins needed. So 200 different types. You need and of those protein molecules, each particular type of protein would need from 10 to over 500,000 copies of itself. Okay? And like I said, proteins are made up of amino acids. And yes, there are 20 different amino acids that make up each position in the protein molecule. It's kind of like a biclock. Okay? And proteins come in a wide variety of shapes. So they are generally between 50 and 2,000 amino acids long. And the sequence of those amino acids, the sequence is very, very, very important. Now here's a biclock that's representative. So we've got 4 dials. Well, an amino acid, there's 20 different amino acids used for life. So you would, instead of having 0 through 9, which is basically 10 positions, you need 20 positions on each one of those dials. And instead of only having 4 dials, depending on the protein, again, anywhere from 50 to 2,000, you could have a biclock, a biclock that has 2,000 dials on it instead of 4. And so we come to what we call the 50-50 rule. What is that? All amino acids have a right and a left-handed. And the funny thing is, the vast majority, can't say vast enough, majority of protein molecules come in left-handed. And this one biological fact, in fact, chirality, is probably enough to prove design. How so? Well, just math. But anyway, let's not stop there. Just from the secular science I've talked about so far, 42 million protein molecules needed for a small cell. Protein molecules have 50 to 2,000 amino acids per protein molecule. And the simple average of those two numbers is 1025 amino acids per protein molecule. But let's be generous. Let's reduce it down. Instead of saying 1025 on average per molecule, let's just say it's only 400 amino acids per protein molecule. Well, that's enough to cut out any non-chiral protein form. So again, I'm just trying to be generous. So let's also do this. Let's be generous again. Let's reduce the total number of protein molecules needed for a small cell, and let's reduce it to, say, 30 million instead of 42. To take out all the non-chiral protein molecules. So what are we left with? Here's what we're left with. We have 30 million 30 million homochiral, that is left-handed, protein molecules with 400 amino acids per protein. And if we multiply the 30 million protein molecules times 400 amino acids, we get 12 billion. 12 billion. That's 12 billion amino acids in Darwin's little pond. They have to magically come together in homochiral form to create 30 million homochiral left-handed protein molecules. And then you have to understand that there are both left and right-handed amino acids in Darwin's little pond, which are chemically available and chemically active in Darwin's pond. So how do I know this to be the case? Well, let's look at the actual supposed evidence, let's say. So one of the most popular theories is that these amino acids flew in here on asteroids. They have found amino acids on asteroids. The problem is, and it's a big problem, the biggest butt of this whole thing is racemic mixtures. What does racemic mean? Well, again, you have both right and left-handed. And you need the right-handed. You have both right and left-handed that are in Darwin's little pond because they flew in here on asteroids. And yet they have to be somehow separated into homochiral form, somehow. And the story is that brain-dead Mother Nature, and I hate to use the term Mother Nature, when you anthropomorphize something that isn't anthropomorphic. But chemists today can't do what they say Mother Nature could do back there on the early Earth. And that's nonsense. Even the Miller-Urey experiment here, that's the other way. If you set the conditions up of what the early Earth was supposed to be like, which Miller-Urey didn't do actually, right? They created racemic mixtures too. In fact, not only did they create racemic mixtures, it's not just the fact that it was right and left-handed. It's the fact that there were all kinds of compounds in that stuff. All kinds of compounds. And even today, they can't fish it out. So the only place chemists today get their homochiral amino acids is from nature, because it's the only known source for homochiral molecules. And even man with a brain realizes the complexity is beyond our comprehension, and it's getting worse by the day. So if you believe that could happen in this universe, you're willfully ignorant. For example, let me give you another example. They say in the DNA of the humans, it's 3.2 billion letters long. Well, you need almost 4 times that number, if we can count each amino acid like a letter, just for the construction of the protein molecules needed for our supposed first ancestor. And also in DNA, you have 4 different types like A, T, G, and C. But wow, proteins, what do they have? Well, out of a pool of 500, you need 20 specific ones. Okay? Again, a biclock with 12 billion dials. And each dial has 20 different possible choices. And the biological systems called the cell have to pick the correct amino acids from a pool of 20. And in Darwin's little pond, there's both right and left, right? But we only want the left, which makes it actually there's a possibility of 40 choices at each dial, because right and left and 20, right? So Mother Nature has to pick the correct amino acid, the left-handed amino acid, out of a possible choice of 40, both right and left-handed. And again, there's 20 different amino acids used in biological life out of a pool of 500. And it has to do that. It has to pull the correct left-handed amino acid out of a pool of 500, and it has to do it 12 billion times correctly. Yeah, sure. That happened by chance. No way. So if you can believe that, I don't understand what your problem is with miracles. Like, say, the resurrection of Jesus in the Bible. The resurrection of Jesus in the Bible is way more believable, especially from a theistic perspective, because God did it. In fact, it looks like he did it with the proteins. Any reasonable person, what's more reasonable, what's more logical, what's more probable to believe at this point? And God said. And all we've talked about is protein molecules. That's just the truth. Enough said. Have a blessed day. Bye.